Shadow. I think we'll have to best it tomorrow.
I think so.
And I know just the word. All right, stay for that tomorrow. But right now it's time for the news review brought to you by Interplast. Wherever you are, they make sure water reaches you even in space. It's also brought to you by First Atlantic Bank, refreshingly different. We love our friends at First Atlantic Bank because they care about us. That's why they've introduced a set of mobile banking applications and a USSD shortcode, *442#. And they are for banking transactions. So you can download the First Atlantic Ghana mobile app from the Google Play Store or iOS Store, or you could dial *442# for all of your mobile money transactions, instant fund transfer. You can pay bills with it. You can purchase airtime or data from Airtel, MTN, Glow, or Vodafone, among other things. So, look, welcome to the Purple experience on mobile. It's safe, it's secure, and it's very simple to use. First Atlantic Bank, refreshingly different. Now, it's time for us to get into the headlines, after which we're going to spend a little bit of time recapping some fascinating things we heard during the vetting of the new Supreme Court justices. Yesterday was the turn of Yoni Kolendi and Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, and they did not disappoint, did they?
Of course, you can see that I'm glorified this morning. It's called Glory by Association.
Please, which of them are you associated with?
Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu. We went to the very esteemed Wesley Girls High School, not at the same time, obviously.
Well,
many years after, and so walking in the footsteps of greatness and glory this morning is wonderful, truly wonderful. But something that is not wonderful is our COVID-19 figures. So I'll do a quick update. We're at 5,127, as we were told yesterday by the minister. 494 recoveries. There's 130 people who are waiting their second test, so that if they're negative, then they'll be discharged, and that will come and add to the number of recoveries. 4,611 active cases. Now, something that's interesting, Winston, is Malawi is going ahead with their elections. Slated for July 2nd. I remember that a few months ago they did have the elections, but the results did not hold up. But they have 57 cases of corona. 13 more were recorded 2 days ago, bringing and not that many deaths. So I think 2 or 3 deaths in Malawi. So there's a lot of talking going on about that because they're having these massive rallies. They had a rally over the weekend, and so the world is kind of watching them.
Were they practicing physical distancing?
No, there was absolutely no social distancing, no physical distancing at all. This was thousands of people gathered together on the day after they had recorded their highest spike in the COVID-19, which was 13. So that's what's happening in Malawi. Dr. Foshi has said that he believes that the U.S. is underreporting deaths as well. He testified on that as well. That's with the U.S. And we know that the U.K. is easing restrictions very slowly, so kids are going to start going back to school. Their death toll has hit over 50,000 as it stands. So that's what's going on. There's also a feature by Elizabeth Ohene in the newspaper about pre-existing conditions and comorbidity. And remember yesterday, the head of the GHS, Dr. Patrick Abaji, was speaking. He talked about hypertension, diabetes, liver failure, asthma, obesity being a lot of the obesity. We did that on Say, right, didn't we? A lot of the reasons why people were dying because of these underlying conditions. He also stated categorically that they weren't sure whether it was the COVID-19 that killed these people or whether it was the underlying conditions, but the two together obviously puts a lot more people at risk. So that's it for COVID-19 here in Ghana and around the world.
Exactly. And I also had Dr. Abuaje say that, Ghana is considering whether we do 2 tests to confirm the recovery of persons, or maybe we just do one, because in some countries it's just one test.
I like the 2 tests. I like being certain, but we need to clean up the testing system so we don't have this backlog, and we streamline the testing of those who are positive and are waiting, awaiting a negative result. So we need to figure out how to create separate streams and get the work done. It's a project management problem, if you ask me. And we need to really look at how we can ensure that we have more testing locations and more testing capacity, and we can do this thing easily and seamlessly without making people wait. There's somebody we work with who was tested, 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. Why must anybody wait 3 weeks to know whether they're positive or negative? And during that time, how many people have they been coming in contact with? So if the results come out and it's positive now, I mean, honestly, what kind of contact tracing can you do 3 weeks backwards? You know?
Good point.
I have a question, though. I have a question about the numbers. So everybody talks about the mortality rate, and it's low, right? Very low. It's good. But we also hear that we also understand that the testing, actually the recovery rate I'm thinking about, and it's low. Recovery rate is low in Ghana. But I'm thinking about the testing, okay? How often are we testing those we are treating? And at what interval? Does that also contribute to the fact that the recovery rate is low? Do people recover quicker than we know? Or is it slower? And if it's slower, why? Anyway, questions on my mind.
Well, but when you spoke to Matilda, she said she was tested 5 times. Yes. After the first test.
That's right.
So it was only at that point that, she tested negative twice. And that's why I'm really thinking that we don't have to change our current strategy of testing people twice. Because there was a case in Kumasi of one person who tested negative and then tested positive again.
Positive, yeah.
So we really have to be careful. Anyway, let's get into the newspapers. And James 4 verse 17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him, it is a sin.
Hallelujah.
Chronicle 4. Good morning.
That's a chronicle. We can't force government to implement our report, and Henrietta Mensah Bonsu and Akufo-Addo won't stay beyond mandate. Election will come off December 7 upon Nkrumah. Akufo-Addo provides housing for military. Bafo-Boni jailed 6 years. So Bafo-Boni, William Terry and Alhaji Osman jailed 16 years combined. And illegal fuel booms on Westing and Central High Seas. We saw that Ghana, maritime authorities seeking orders of the court to seize these wooden boats that are used to, smuggle fuel or deal in the illegal business, so that they could seize them and destroy them.
Okay, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, $4 million NCA scandal. Bafo-Boni, Tevi, Alhaji Osman jailed. Court orders confiscation of assets. Professor Mensah Bonsu and Kulindi sail through the vetting. Domlevo found guilty of contempt. Vice President launches integrated ICT system for Maslock. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, Maritime Security seizes 10 canoes in illegal oil bunkering. And that's it for the Daily Graphic.
The Gold Street Business says criteria for 600 million stimulus disbursement nearly ready, and secondary bond market attracts more investors. Investors exploiting attractive deals across the various maturities on the secondary bond market, and Ghana Exim Bank to issue bonds to increase financing and diversifying funding sources.
On the front page of the Daily Guides, pretty much the same stories. Domelevo, Bafo-Boni, NCA, COVID-19 cases soar. I'll be fair to all. That was Emmanuel Yoni Kalendi. And December elections will come on. That's according to the government.
The Daily Statesman says Maslow goes digital with the launch of integrated ICT system. 3 Mahama appointees jailed 16 years for causing $4 million financial loss at NCA. And we're grateful to you, President commends soldiers for role in COVID-19 fight.
All right, pretty much the same stories on the front page of the Ghanaian Observer. Exception is Akufo-Addo commends military for exemplary COVID-19 fight. And that's it. That's the Ghanaian Observer.
And the Ghanaian Times says President Akufo-Addo commissions new Douala barracks at Burma Camp. Auditor General found guilty of contempt, and Ghana's COVID-19 rises to 5,127. 10 areas declared hotspots. My
very last paper, The Finder. Soldiers get new houses, more nearing completion as part of barracks regeneration project, as according to President Akufo-Addo. Cabinet retreats, government prioritizes health, roads and industry, and COVID-19 infection spike at Obuasi.
And the new crusading guide says KIA disinfection saga. Guta descends on Ghana Airport Company Limited boss for unduly delaying the installation of disinfection system. Akufo-Addo's daughters build state-of-the-art autism center, and Vice President Bawumia launches Maslock's digital system.
All right, let's do the online review brought to you by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. You can now bank on the go with your mobile phone. Just dial *966# Zenith Bank's USSD short code. Now, with star 966 hash, you can open a bank account instantly. You can link your mobile money wallet to your bank account. You can top up airtime, transfer funds, and pay bills, among other things. So do it the easy way. Dial star 966 hash today. This service is available to account and non-account holders. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. Now, Goyle continues to welcome you to their service stations, and they want you to be safe. So when you get there, cover your mouth with tissue when you cough, dispose of your tissue immediately, wash your hands with soap and running water, which will be provided at every service station, especially when you handle money. You need to do this. Also, you can use alcohol-based sanitizer if you're not in a position to wash your hands. Now, please maintain a minimum distance of 1.5 meters between you and other customers, as well as the attendants. Let's observe these simple protocols together and defeat the COVID-19 virus. Now, if you exhibit any symptoms, don't head straight to the hospital. Call the hotlines first for help on COVID-19. The numbers are 055 2222 004 or 055 2222 005. Right, now here are some headlines. MyJoyOnline.com has I feel hunted by Martin Amidu. That's Mahama Yariga. He spoke on PM Express to Evans Mensah last night. Also, great news. Papa Uso Ankuma recovers from COVID-19 and extends gratitude to well-wishers. Isn't that beautiful? I'd love for us to have a conversation with Papa Uso Ankuma, especially because, we need some of those who have recovered to give hope to others, and also to kill the stigma.
Yes. And we've been told that we can speak to him
that's beautiful.
From about next week, because he is still resting and recovering.
Okay.
So sending him love and light. Yes.
Oh, we're so happy. Papa Usankuma back on his feet from COVID-19. All right, City Newsroom has these. Ghana can't forego 2020 polls despite COVID-19 outbreak. That's Peter McMenu. Here's one. Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu denies being offered EC boss job. BBC has these. Twitter says staff can work from home forever. Yeah. And violence drives out 23,000 Nigerian refugees. That's not great. CNN has this. This is the big one this morning. COVID-19 hits the whole body. Doctors treating coronavirus patients are seeing a range of odd and frightening syndromes caused by COVID-19. Not looking good. Okay, so let's talk about yesterday's vetting and Yoni Kulendi. I was smiling from ear to ear for most of Yoni Kulendi's submissions, but he had a lot to say, especially about some reforms in the judicial system here in Ghana. Let's listen to a little bit of what he shared.
I'd like to see the type of reform that would enable the judiciary add to infrastructure, add to training and support and building of capacity for support judicial staff, and even training of lawyers. All the things that we need to make the judiciary be the judiciary that it ought to be. I don't relish a life for the duration that I'll be there in the kind that I have seen, and I'm hoping that this house will become more sensitized on the needs of the judiciary. And you cut their budget by half. You ask them to keep 30% of internally generated money. Judges are hired, and almost a year into their employment, they don't have accommodation, they don't have a car, they don't even have a salary. And yet you expect these people to be this sacrosanct group of people. We need fundamental structural reform so that we can deliver the justice that the people of Ghana need. Because if the system, touch wood, does not function and the public lose confidence in the administration of justice, the alternative is not a future that we want for ourselves, let alone for our children.
Indeed, that's what judicial reform would look like if Yoni Kulendi had anything to do with it. And of course, he talked about many other things. Fascinating vetting. And then it was the turn of Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, who, by the way, loves the Super Morning Show, never misses it. And she was asked about her view on the government's reaction, the white paper that was issued on the report that she and her fellow commissioners on the Ayawaso West Wuogon Commission, the report that they issued, they asked her what she thought of the government's white paper and response.
It is customary when people draft appeals to say that the judgment is against the weight of the evidence. So I do not see it except in that light. And enough of the recommendations were accepted for that not to be wholly correct. So, yes, the language may have been infelicitous, but the Constitution uses that language. So anybody who wants to question something would be right to use that language. But I don't think it questions our competence in any way. No. You are guided by law. The rules say that when you hand in your report, you are functus officio. So it's not your duty to go chasing people to implement. It becomes property that honorable members like you should follow up, not the commission. The commission doesn't exist anymore. It is functus officio. And when, for example, judges take decisions in the courts, the judge may have really sweated over the decision. It goes on appeal and it is reversed. The judge doesn't hold a press conference to complain. That's the nature of it.
Would you have wished personally for better?
Well, when you give advice, you hope that it will be taken. But what I know of advice is that those who want it don't need it, and those who need it don't want it.
This morning, which category do you fall into? Those who want it or those who need it? Anyway, that was Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu speaking on the Ayawaso West Wuogon report. But she also made a bit of time to respond to the rumor that she had turned down the job of EC boss.
Nobody had approached me for anything. And yet I kept seeing headlines. Somebody even had a headline explaining why I turned it down. And it was a very difficult time for me. People were friends, and I said, what are you going to deny? Nobody has offered you anything. What are you going to deny? So let's just say that I won the popular vote. Thank you.
She has such a turn of phrase, doesn't she?
Yeah, she won the popular vote.
Indeed. Right?
And the fact that, one media actually said that, did a story that says, why Henrietta Mensah Bonsu turned down EC job.
Oh! It was powerful, wasn't
when she wasn't
even offered the job. Yeah. But she had won by popular votes. I guess in that way the media was prophetic.
Yeah, well,
spiritually.
If it was an elected position, she would have taken it hands down, right? Yes, even without applying for it. Can you imagine? But fascinating stuff, especially about the report, and her view. I wish we had been able to play the other thing she said about the use of the word militia, and the reason why, in her professional opinion, and look, it is no mean professional opinion, she has worked in war zones, and so in her and her colleagues, Justice Emil Short being one of them, another person who has worked internationally in war zones, and of course the former IGP, in their opinion, what we were seeing had elements of militia, and so it was better to call it that than to call it vigilante, which in her view just bore no relation to what this phenomenon actually is. But then again, look, their job is simply to advise, right? But those who
exactly, and she makes that point that Parliament should rather be pushing for the implementation of the report. Government has come up with a white paper. They've accepted some of the recommendations. They've turned some of the recommendations month.
See you next week.
And so
Bye-bye.
those that have been accepted by government, they should be.
This is the BBC World Service, where people from around the world are sharing their experiences of the coronavirus outbreak.
Extremely virulent virus and needs to be treated with the utmost respect.
Other countries are talking about the virus as though it's a harbinger of the apocalypse. For us, it was one crisis in a string of ongoing disasters.
The Response, Coronavirus, Tuesday at 8:30 and 12:30
Views and
GMT.
opinions can shape our thinking. But not
And at
all
7:50 GMT, Witness History.
We go back to 1999 when the contraceptive pill was legalized in Japan.
Also, don't
Hear
forget
from
that
Enrico
an
Doka,
important conversation and our
about
very
the fight
own
to give
church
women
on
control
speaking
of their own reproduction.
This is the BBC World Service, the world radio station.